Okay, so it says we're live. Are we live yet? Are we on camera yet? I've got a couple of more Masters of the Universe Origins figures to open up for you this week because we had the with this guy here, got the concept art Manny Faces, the sketchbook series, and he's a really cool guy. I always thought that when I first saw this Mark Taylor design, I always thought it was really cool. And I'm not necessarily saying I would have rather had that than what we wound up getting in terms of the coloration to it, but I always thought, man, it would be really cool if they just repainted Manny Faces and gave us like a white and gold version so it looked like, you know, you could just even they could have even just taken this one and just repainted it to be white and gold and gray, and I would have been happy with it. But he's got some other parts to him. We'll get into talking about that more on the next episode. And but today we're going to open up Spikor from the Masters of the Universe 2026 movie. So yeah, I'll do him, and then I'll do next episode. I'll do Manny Faces, and then we'll do some more DC stuff, and we'll do Black Hawk and Vigilante. We'll go ahead and open those up. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Make sure you leave a comment if you're watching this in the replay, and of course, if you're watching along in the live stream right now, feel free to weigh in the chat and let me know whatever you're thinking while we're doing this. So Spikor, we already talked about this packaging on the last Masters Universe Origins movie figure, which was He-Man that I opened up. I know that they've got Beastman. I've got Beastman on the way from Mattel Creations website, and have not been able to snag Trapjaw on the Walmart website. So it's looking like my best bet to get Trapjaw is to actually find him out in the wild. We'll see if that happens. Those are all the Origins figures that I know of that they've made for the movie. I don't know of any other ones, but I would have to assume that that they're probably going to do Origins figures for at least Skeletor. You'd have to do Skeletor and Man at Arms, not Manny Faces. He's not. I don't think he's in the movie, but yeah, Man at Arms will probably get an Origins figure. I think he would anyway. Bobby Wald says he looks like the first render of Sonic, the Sonic movie, except being purple. Ah, no, he looks cool. I like him. So, and like you can see a little more accurate movie interpretation of him on the back. Looks nice and scary. He's got a flail. Does not have the trident with the balls at the end of it, thankfully, which is I never really cared for that aspect of Spikor. I'm pretty sure that's why I never had Spikor when I was a kid, is that this thing here, where they put balls at the end of his trident. Ugh. And I figured that was for safety reasons back then, that maybe they didn't want like a spring-loaded pointy object. And but nowadays, I mean, it's not even a spring-loaded thing. This is just something that attached onto his wrist. They could have easily made this pointy and made it out of a somewhat pliable. It's already a kind of pliable plastic, so I think they could have done that and still been well within safety regulations. They'd never given Spikor a proper trident that I can recall in the Origins line, so which is unfortunate. So and I know maybe some people have nostalgia for the balls, but I'm not one of those people. I never had Spikor when I was a kid, probably because I didn't like that trident. But hey, we can put this on the Origins figure if we want to. I'll probably go ahead and do that when we open them up. So Target sent this to me through some no-name delivery company that I like, On Track or something. I'd never even heard of them. Like, you know, not UPS, not DHL, not FedEx, not the freaking post office. On Track. What is this? Just some guy in a station wagon? I don't even know what it is. So they wound up yesterday. It was supposed to be delivered to me, and then I got a text from them saying they couldn't deliver it because my address was not complete. Okay, and then all of a sudden it shows up today. So I guess my address must have been pretty complete after all, since they were able to find my house. I don't know why you're sending me that text. Why are you even sending me like stuff that's telling me it's gonna just tell me it's gonna be here on Wednesday, and I won't be upset. Like I'll be like, oh cool, it's showing up on Wednesday instead of expecting it to show up on Tuesday, and then it never does, and then you tell me my address is complete. Well, guess what? It wasn't. It was fine. So yeah, Spikor, untouchable master of evil combat. Oh, that was the thing I was going to get to. Is they decided to put a label right where anywhere on this package where there's not words. They or even these words down here, they don't really give a crap about the legalese. I don't care about any of that. They put it right where the bio is, and I like to read the bio, so I'm going to try to decipher it as best I can. I think I should be able to figure out what it says. It says Spikor, untouchable master of evil combat, the spiked servant of Skeletor, will go to any lengths to recover the sword of power for his master. All right, so there's that, and then even though I did go over this on the He-Man, I'm going to just go ahead and see it's got Castle Grayskull in the background, and it's got the exploding red rocks. So they got the acknowledgement of the original action figure line. I really like that. Bobby Wold says that almost sounds like a scam message because I get those from FedEx all the time and I don't have anything coming in. Yeah, see, and that was the other thing where I'm like, how do I even know this is like really from this? I don't even know who this company is. The only reason I knew that they were legitimately who was delivering it is because it said so on the Target app when I checked it, and sent me with a link to their webpage, which is kind of chintzy looking because it's some company I never heard of. All right, so let's go ahead and open them up. Get Spikor out of here. One thing I thought was unusual about this Spikor is like most versions of Spikor, he's got a weapon as like a prosthetic hand. That's not unusual. But what is unusual is usually Spikor has it on the left hand. And in this case, he's got it on the right hand. Why did they do that? I don't know. Usually you would, if anything, do it the opposite way, where if somebody had a prosthetic on their right hand, you might switch it over to their left hand. Because then they could use their right hand, and most people are right-handed. I remember that the Hellboy movie, they had considered moving the big-handed Doom from the right hand to the left hand for that very reason. But it turned out that Ron Perlman is ambidextrous, so they actually didn't have to do that. So yeah, maybe the dude playing Spikor is a lefty. I don't know. So they got this big old ball and chain on his right hand. There we go. We got that out of there. Right arm, I should say. Now, something interesting about this guy is you see that since he's Spikor, he's got all these spikes all over him. And that means that this is actually an original torso. But the way they did it, again, because they don't want to have like all these pointy things sticking off of here and hard plastic like the torso is usually made out of, is it's got like this kind of soft rubber kind of sheath all over the entire torso. So this is not actually, I'm going to take them apart real quick. This is not actually like the traditional Masters of the Universe torso. It is like, and I believe it's permanently glued on, but you can see the layer there, how there's that extra layer around the edge. See, that's the softer plastic. And then there's like a little bit of a, like right where his spine is on the actual figure, it looks like there's a separate third piece there. So I think what they did, yeah, so this, you see where there's that notch there at the top? That's hard plastic. So, and then they've got, I think that's just where they could kind of like have the thing open. I can see the seam right here. So this kind of fits around him like a vest, only in reverse. It closes at the back. So there's a seam down the back where I can see where this this kind of softer, more rubbery, pliable plastic goes. And the arms don't seem to me like they're any more pliable than the Masters figures usually are. at the upper arms, but that's just pliable enough. You can see the spikes spikes are all kinds of like, squishy. You can kind of flex them a little bit. And that's because they don't want some kid accidentally poking his eye out with their action figure. So, but yeah, he's got the prosthetic hand, which in this case is a flail. Now, like I pointed out before, Spikor traditionally has like a trident on that hand, and it's like a trident with balls on it, because I guess safety reasons. But for whatever reason, he doesn't have a trident in this one. He has a flail. Frankly, I approve, because it means I don't have to complain about his balls. But yeah, so if you are more traditional, I've got this one that came with the sketchbook series, so you can put the trident on him if you want. You just have to have an extra trident to put on him. But I think I'm going to stick with the flail. I like the flail. And he doesn't come with his traditional mace either, but I mean, he's already got a flail, so you really need that for. And it does have an articulation here, but I don't think you can actually move his wrist around. I think once you have this in here, the clasp, where the prosthetic is, it's pretty flush with the wrist and the bracer. And these bracers are separate pieces. You can remove these, which is nice. You couldn't remove He-Man's bracers, and I thought that would have been a nice extra thing to have. But his bracers actually are removable. And then he's got the spikes all down the legs. He's got spikes all over him. And then he has a removable loincloth. And you can see it's got kind of a gray buckle and two little gray armor pieces there with some spikes on them. And he's got a strap down his, I guess, his left hip. And it does look like the sort of thing where if he did have the club that the old Spikor came with, you can imagine the character. It doesn't actually function that way. It's not. It's like still molded to the loincloth. But you could imagine that being someplace where he could store his weapon when he wasn't using it. And underneath the loincloth, we have the traditional Masters of the Universe style furry trunks, where it's a dark brown trunks with a somewhat lighter brown belt. And if you want to have them look more like the older toys, you can just leave those trunks on them. Now, I don't have the regular Origins version of Spikor, but I do have the sketchbook version of Spikor. You might recall I opened him a while back. And I did want a more traditional version of Spikor. So when I was looking through Big Bad Toy Store recently, I noticed that they had the cartoon collection version of Spikor on sale. So I decided to go ahead and pick him up. So he'll be one that we see in a future episode. He doesn't look like Sonic. I don't. You're messing with me. But see, he's got all the little spikes on his bracer there. He's got one spike on each of his knees. No spikes on the rest of the shin guards. And it looks like these shin guards are removable. It looks like the rubber tab got stuck in his ankle. So those just kind of clip on. And underneath there, we can see he's got the traditional He-Man boots, at least for the top part of his shin. Like the original Spikor figure used He-Man legs. So he just kind of had those furry boots. But they decided to give him the Skeletor type, the reptile feet. So it does make him a little more evil warrior. So instead of having boots, he's got more just sort of like fur kind of strapped around his lower legs. And like I said, we don't really see that much fur in the movie costumes, and I suspect that's because just like movie costumers don't want to use much fur these days. But they managed to get some on the action figure, hadn't they? Now I hadn't gotten a good look at his shins in the movie, and if we look at the package here, which I'm assuming this is a fairly accurate interpretation of what Spikor looks like in the movie, we can see that he doesn't. You can't really see the fur on the edges of the shin guards. All we can really see is the shin guards, and then he's got that leathery sort of loincloth. Anyhow, so yeah. But if you do want him to be a little more furry, then you've got that as an option. Now, in addition to having all these spikes all over his body, his skin is kind of like, looks like it's kind of dried up and cracked. I don't know how well that's coming across on the camera, but there's like a texture to it that makes it look kind of scaly. he's a really cool looking figure. I really like how they managed to translate this. Now, honestly, like the one in the movie, like you can see on the, again, going back to the artwork on the back of the package, there's more sort of color kind of gradations to it, and certain parts of the spikes are darker and lighter, and they did not do any of that kind of stuff with the paint on this guy. He's just straight purple plastic. They didn't do any kind of airbrush over it or anything like that, which that would have been an easy way to do that. So I don't think Mattel did this for cost reasons, is what I'm saying. Although it certainly couldn't have hurt. It would have made the figure cheaper. But I think that this was an aesthetic choice because, again, the Origins figures are supposed to look like the old school Masters of the Universe action figures. And if they'd made this guy in the 80s, there probably wouldn't have been that kind of overspray like I'm talking about. I mean, there might have been because there's some of that on some of the figures, but the original Spikor certainly didn't have any of that, and probably the movie version of Spikor wouldn't have if they had made him. I do like the way the spikes are all like long and pointy and kind of irregular, and I like that aspect of him. To me, he looks a bit more threatening, I think, in terms of like the way they've got his spikes set up than the original Spikor looked. And to be fair, I think a lot of that had to do with, like I talked about with the sketchbook figure, technical limitations with the molding process that they would have had in the 1980s, and also like safety protocols and things like that they didn't really want Spikor to be like, a safety hazard. They don't want kids to be poking their eyes out with their Spikor figures, so the spikes are a little more subtle on Spikor. Really, the only place where I kind of feel like it causes an issue, though, is that trident. That was the thing that always threw me off with the original Spikor, and I'm convinced that that's the reason that I never got the original Spikor. I'm pretty sure that was just the thing where I'm just like, it's not going to bother with them. So, and I know a lot of people love the original Spikor figure, so I'm not trying to talk smack about him. There's a lot of things to love about that figure, but for me, it just never was one that I was that interested in, I guess. Now, I figure if somebody had gotten them for me as a gift or something like that, if if he'd have been part of my Christmas or my birthday or something, or, just my grandma just randomly saw something at the store for me and picked him up, that kind of thing, then I might have played with the figure a little bit and gotten to really like him. Who knows? But it's like, I think there were just other cooler toys that I wanted to have. And by that point, like, I think around that time, the main thing that I would have been into would have been Superpowers and Secret Wars. If I was going to pick up a He-Man figure, it was going to have to be one that really impressed me by that point. Also, the other thing is, like, they were making so many characters by then for He-Man. Like, there were just so many Masters of the Universe characters that, like, again, it had to be something really impressive for me to want to pick it up. So, and I was still playing with He-Man action figures by that point, even though I was like I said, probably more into the superheroes. And Transformers, I think, would have come out around that time. I would have been into Transformers, and still would have had competition from G.I. Joe. So, so Spikor would have been one that kind of fell by the wayside for me for any number of reasons. But I think if I had the original figure when I was a kid, I probably would have wound up liking him. But it just wasn't really like just didn't have enough for me to just like want him on my own, I guess is what I'm saying. So, but this guy was really cool, and I really liked the design. When I saw him in the trailer for the first time, I'm like, ooh, Spikor looks cool. And I think that was the first time I was ever really excited about Spikor. Now, I did like the Revelation Spikor figure. That one I thought was really good. And I was never able to get around to getting the Classics version of Spikor. And I was never able to get around to getting the regular Origins version of Spikor. But I did wind up liking the sketchbook figure a lot more than I thought I would have. And in hindsight, like I said at the time, I wish I had bought a second one of those when I had the opportunity, and then I could have repainted that one to be purple. Because the one thing that I thought could have improved that, Mattel should just do that sculpt again, but in purple, And I know it was brown in the original sketch, so it makes sense. I'm not complaining that they made it brown, but if they made a purple version of that, it would look so cool, I think. Bobby Wald says, growing up, my aunt 4 years in a row got me for Christmas, got me Cyclone. Well, you could army build them. Just have an army of Cyclones. Hey, he's called Cyclone, right? Right? Huh? Cyclone. So he has clones. See, now it all makes sense. I always thought that was an odd name for him because he wasn't like a duplicating character, but now it makes sense, right? Now you could use him as a duplicating character. I remember one year for my birthday, one of my uncles got me the battle ram, and I already had the battle ram, and I was like, "Oh, I have one of these," and he's like, "Oh, well, we can take it to the store and get it replaced." I'm like, "No. Now I have two of them." Because, from my perspective, like the battle ram was something like an X-Wing fighter. You didn't necessarily just have to have you just one. Lots of pilots. Wedge had an X-Wing fighter. Biggs had an X-Wing fighter. So a kid could potentially have like a lot of different X-Wing fighters. And I think with my parents, they bought me one X-Wing fighter, and that was enough. But in this case, as a fluke, I wound up having two battle rams. So you bet I was holding on to that second battle ram. Let's talk about the articulation on this guy real quick. So Spikor can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt its head kind of quickly from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders. Now here's where we're going to get into like a little bit of the eccentricities of this figure. Is he's got all these spikes on him, and obviously that's going to kind of hinder the arm movement when you try to raise them up at the shoulders. But it's mainly what's holding it up, I think, is it does hit these kind of at the shoulder a little bit, but I don't think that's really what's holding it up. I think it's this little teeny tiny spike right here. Yeah, I can get it to go almost all the way up if I kind of try to move the smaller spike underneath the breastplate, for lack of a better term. By the way, this figure does come all the way apart. You already saw me pull him apart at the waist. The arms come off, the head comes off, and it comes off really easily because not too easily. You're not going to accidentally pull it off probably, but and then the shins should come, all that kind of stuff, like a regular Origins figure. Get that back in there. If anything, I'm having a hard time getting the arm back in. And for whatever reason on mine, and this might just be my example, he doesn't want to stay together at the waist that well. Like if I try to put him in, he doesn't seem to want to lock in. I had to really press it to get it to lock in. I think it's going to stay in now, but before it was being kind of iffy. Now, Spikor has a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which bends almost but not quite 90 degrees, and then that rotates all the way around. And technically, he's got an articulation here where the wrist rotates all the way around. But since it's just kind of a prosthetic hand, it's not really a real hand. It's like just kind of a thing that he's got over his stump. It doesn't really have wrist articulation he's got a horizontal hinge on his left hand, and the left wrist rotates all the way around. But yeah, so obviously you're going to have less wrist articulation when you don't really have like a traditional wrist with a hand attached to it. So I'm not trying to make fun of you because you're handicapped, my guy. I'm just saying that's just a fact. So anyway, Spikor rotates all the way around the waist, and he can kick up about that far. I kind of neglected to put the breechcloth back on him, and that might kind of hinder that leg movement somewhat. So let's go ahead and put that back together so we can get a good look at that. And hopefully I can get him to stay together when I get him put back together again. Sometimes, for whatever reason, the knob at the wrist just doesn't, at the waist, I'm sorry, it doesn't quite want to stick in as well as it should. So yeah, it doesn't really hinder his leg movement too much. I mean, obviously, they can only move their legs up about that far anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. And he can do the splits no problem. That's about as well as he can do that anyway. He's got knee joints, like a single articulation at the knee that bends in about that far, and then that rotates all around, of course, at a bit of an angle, as Masters Universe Origins tend to do. And I accidentally snapped off his shin guard there, because like I said, that just kind of snaps on and off. If you didn't get a good look at that earlier, see, it's just got these two kind of C clamps, and they just kind of clamp over there. That's going to be a good part to use for customs, I think. That's going to be a part, like if I wind up buying multiples of this figure for custom parts, that would be a good piece to use for custom parts. Although the main thing, like the main problem with using this guy for customs is, like, what are you going to use all the other parts for? They're all pretty distinctively Spikor, aren't they? So just make original characters that also have spikes all over their body, I suppose. But I could, and I might do this if I see one of these at some point in the future. If I see them marked down for cheap, I think it might be a good thing to do. I might pick up another one of these and repaint the whole figure and give him a more movie accurate paint job. I think that might be a cool thing to do. But even as it is, I like this shade of purple. It's just like a really shocking, obnoxious shade of purple. And it's so not a movie color. This is not really how they color somebody in a movie. I mean, we saw what he looks like in the movie, where he is purple, but it's like, there's darker purples and lighter purples, and, they try to give him some texture. And this guy is just like, no, he's purple, dude. Anyway, going back to the articulation, he does have a boot cut, but again, the shin guards are going to kind of interfere with it somewhat. You can't really rotate the shin all the way around when he's got these armor pieces on here, because either the armor pieces are going to fall off or they're going to get in the way. It's so if you want to have the full range of motion for the boot cut, what you're going to have to do is just take the shin guards off, just not have them with shin guards, and that's it. Bobby Wald says, now that I'm getting a better look at it, he looks kind of like Ivan Ooze from that Power Rangers movie. I can definitely see Ivan Ooze. That one I can, I was thinking his face did kind of remind me of something, not Sonic, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what. Yeah, he's Ivan Ooze. Did you know the guy who plays Ivan Ooze is the same guy that played Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark? Because I did not know that for the longest time, and only a few years ago, I ran across an interview with him where he was talking about that, and I'm like, dude, Belloc was Ivan Ooze? That's crazy. It turned out like a lot of actors take that kind of role because his kids were Power Rangers fans, so he wanted to do something where they'd be impressed with Dad. So, but yeah, he definitely does have the Ivan Ooze look going on, especially with the purple. So it's a very Ivan Ooze kind of purple. Oh yeah, so his foot can point down about that far, and his foot can point up about that far, and then that rotates all the way around, and that's it for the articulation. That's everything for the articulation. So Spikor went from being a character that, like, I was kind of indifferent towards in the vintage line. Never had him when I was a kid. Never wound up having any kind of nostalgic appreciation for Spikor, because I never had the figure when I was a kid. To being a guy where it's like, yeah, he'll be another cool guy to fill out my Evil Warriors, so I'll buy the one for Revelation, sure. And that was actually the first Spikor figure I ever had. And the sketchbook figure, I was gonna kind of just take a pass on the sketchbook figure. I was sleeping on that. And yeah, Bobby Wall didn't know that either, so I'm not the only one then. But yeah, like I was gonna kind of just sleep on the sketchbook figure. I wasn't even gonna pick up the sketchbook figure until he was like marked down at Target, and he was super cheap. And I'm like, $8 I think I paid for that. I couldn't say no to it for $8. And then I wound up really liking that figure. And then finally I saw Spikor in the trailer for the movie, and I just thought he looked awesome. And I'm like, man, I hope that they make a really cool action figure out of that. Like, the action figure is going to be dope. And sure enough, I do really enjoy this action figure. Now, I'm I think I'm gonna like the Chronicles figure better because, like I said, it's gonna have more of that movie detailing to it whenever they get around to doing him in the Chronicles line. But honestly, I do feel like as far as trying to get this guy to fit into the aesthetic of the '80s toy line, I think they did a great job. Like obviously, like I said, the paint scheme is a little more simplified than what it probably should have been since it's trying to look like a vintage '80s toy. But I mean, for what it is, I think it's really cool. I love the purple color; it's very eye catching. And then he's got the dark brown at the loincloth and the lighter brown for the belt, and all the colors work together pretty well. It just works. It just works. And I think like this might wind up being like kind of like my definitive Spikor, at least for the vintage style figures. I think that this is how this character is going to kind of exist in my mind from now on. Like I said, I was really impressed with the movie design, and this kind of simplified version of it, I think works really well for like the origins and the vintage aesthetic. And I like the flail. I don't know if I really talked too much about that, but I do really like the flail. I do think it's odd that they put it on the right arm instead of the left arm, which is where he usually has his prosthetic hand. That if they had given him extra hands, and I could have put his original right hand on here and put this over on the left arm instead, I would do that. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to find like I don't know. Maybe the regular Origins Spikor, maybe his hand would match up in terms of that color. I don't know. If you've got the regular Origins Spikor and you've got this figure, let me know in the comments if he's got the same shade of purple on that. I know the Filmation one looked like he was a little more pinkish, so I don't think that one's going to work at all. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for Spikor. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Spikor, both the character in general and this figure specifically. And if you've made it this far in the video, let me know what you think about the movie design of Spikor, and if you were as impressed with them as me. Let me know if Spikor was also a childhood favorite of yours when you were growing up, because I know a lot of people really liked Spikor. And I think I'm just kind of the odd man out in terms of like not being that big of a Spikor fan. But I think most people probably like Spikor more than I did. So let me know if you were one of those people in the comments. So that's it for this episode. Next episode, I'm going to be opening up. Speaking of concept art figures, we're going to be opening up the concept art Manny faces, and I've been really looking forward to having this figure. I've been checking every Target that I can, trying to find them, and finally checking the app as often as I can. Finally got one. So we got him to open up, and that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time.